Hey guys, I'm Nathan from Arms and Armor. Today I want to show you our Italian 3-ring rapier. And this is one I just finished for an order. This is a replica of a piece that's in the Museo Poldi Pezzoli in Milano, in Italy. The original dates from around 1580 to 1590, somewhere in there, and we've reproduced it as carefully as we can. This is a classic example of a Norman-style hilt common in Italy and France. The 3 rings, as you can see looking at the end here, are this ring, and this ring, which give it its name and its characteristic form. This rapier is very similar to those used in some late 16th and early 17th century fighting manuscripts, such as Niccolo Giganti's Rapier treatise, where you see the blade being held far out by his fencers. So the outer guard that you would wear facing outward, that the outside of your hand is on, has these 3 rings and a sweep that comes down and meets the knuckle bow, protecting the outside of your hand. The inside of the guard is a bar that splits off from the knuckle bow and then splits into 4 separate sweeps that protect the inside of the hand. Here you can see this. Now, when you look at rapiers like this one, I'm going to give you some pointers on how you can tell if one is a really good historical reproduction. Right? First of all, on most of these examples, the outer guard is slightly larger than the inner guard. Not all the time, but usually, because there's more of your hand on the outside. And when you wear these things, this inner guard will be against your body in its sheath and on its belt. Right? So you don't want that sticking out quite as much. Now, there are examples later where they're more symmetrical, right? Like cup hilt rapiers are pretty symmetrical inside and outside. Another thing to look at on these is that in many cases, the largest ring here is biased towards the back of the blade a bit. And this allows it to cover your hand. There's more of your hand towards the false edge than there is towards the true edge. So part of the art of making these things is creating something that's asymmetrical, that has an illusion of symmetry, which means that you really just have to make it by hand. You can see on the inside here, the way that all of these bars come together very similarly to the originals. You can see them spreading out from these arms. The pommel on this one is faceted and it tapers towards the end with this long peening nut on the end of it. The grip is wire wrapped, like many of the originals from this time period are, right? So this one is 4 wires, right? 2 of which are counter twisted towards each other with 2 flat wires between them, wrapped around the grip. Of course, there's a full tang, right? The tang just continues. You can see the taper of the ricasso here. That just tapers up through before becoming round and coming out the top of the pommel. The blade on this is 38 inches from the ricasso. It's an inch wide at the ricasso. So the ricasso is this part that's not sharpened, that your finger goes over the top of, right? So it's an inch wide here, and it tapers down to quite a fine and lively point. These have a really minimal secondary bevel because when we grind these blades, you take it down pretty much right to a diamond shaped edge, and then do a light sharpening on that. And so these blades are relatively rigid, much more rigid than you would want a training sword generally to be if you're going to be hitting your friends with it, because this is supposed to go through them, and it does it with very little force. Right? One of the grossest stories from our shop happened years ago when one of these blades wasn't even sharp, but someone was working on it to get this transition here nice and clean. So it was in a vise, and the guy, the phone rang or something, he turned around and the blade that wasn't even sharpened went through his arm between his radius and ulna and tented up his skin on the other side. He barely felt it for a second. He felt it after that, to be sure, but it only takes a couple pounds of pressure to put one of these right through someone, which was the idea, right? This was a civilian sidearm. It was also your awesomest piece of sexy jewelry. And so check it out. We are slowly catching up on our orders for these pieces. And I expect that by the end of the year, we should be caught up with all these orders. So if you're interested, you can contact us, and we're just taking deposits on rapiers right now instead of the full price, because we can't guarantee exactly when they'll be delivered. But check it out. Take a look. Ooh, so sexy. All right, thank you very much.